Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And today we are going to talk about the Week 13 waiver wire pickups. And also good news for me, I got two teams heading to a big money championship game this week in the Fantasy Football Players Championship. So I'm very excited about that. We'll talk about that too. But in the meantime, here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. This is Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. Week 13 is coming up. Actually, as I'm recording this, Week 12 isn't even done yet because of the Ravens-Steelers game, which is going to happen tomorrow night. But this waiver wire episode, obviously the waivers in most leagues are not going to clear until Thursday, so you'll have plenty of time to implement any of these changes that we're talking about. But in the meantime, I'm in a pretty good mood right now because in the Fantasy Football Players Championship, I had two teams advance into the playoffs, and the playoffs were Week 12, and both those teams won. So I am now in the money game for the first part of the tournament, which is very exciting. That's great. Last year, I only had one team that made it to the money game. But anyway, that was pretty nice. And, one of the leagues, I was actually behind 80-0 after the Thursday games because he played a couple of big point getters, including Deshaun Watson and who else? I think Antonio Gibson. So we had a lot of points, and I just slowly was chugging out with pretty good performances for most of my team. And then I had Mahomes and Kelsey in the afternoon game, and that's when I took the lead, and then just added a little bit onto it and ended up beating him by 10 points. So I was pretty happy with that. And so now Week 13 is the championship game. Each of those games, if I win, I'll win $1,500. And then you go for the race to the finish for the final 3 weeks of the season, where you just try to score as many points as you can, and then based on how many points you score, if you score enough, you'll win additional prize money. So that's pretty exciting. It's fun. I did 5 leagues this year. I think in the future I would not do that many. That was a lot to maintain. My first year I did 3. I kind of like going with maybe 3 going forward. A little bit easier to manage there. So let's get to the waiver wire. So obviously Week 13 has, surprisingly, some teams on bye. You got both Tampa Bay and Carolina. So there's a lot of fantasy assets which are going to be idle this week. And, obviously when it comes to the championship game, I actually looked at the teams that I'm going to be playing against, and really nobody has a large presence with either of those teams. So that's actually not surprising. I thought that would end up being the case, because even if you did end up making it to the championship game, boy, I got to tell you, to be without, Mike Evans or Tom Brady or, CMC, but he's injured, DJ Moore, who's actually injured right now. Anyway, not having those players available to you for a Week 13 championship game would definitely hinder your ability to win the big money. But we do have some bye week players that I want to talk to you about, and really some great options on the waiver wire in a few key spots. So let's just get right to it. So let's talk about the quarterbacks. I got to tell you, my number one quarterback pickup this week would be Kirk Cousins, who is only 40% rostered, but he's coming off 2 consecutive 300-yard, 3-touchdown performances. And now he gets to face Jacksonville in Week 13. Wow, that is an awesome matchup. That is great for Kirk. Now, obviously, the risk always with the Minnesota Vikings is that it will become a Dalvin Cook game. Dalvin Cook will just run the ball 35 times. There won't be that much passing. That's always the risk with Kirk Cousins, but I think he's good. I think he would be a great choice to start this week, especially if you happen to stream the quarterback position. Other good options that I really like, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's only 20% rostered. He did well in place of the injured Tua, and it looks like Tua is going to sit again for Week 13. He gets an excellent matchup against Cincinnati. So again, great option. I really like it. Go for it. And even Phillip Rivers, who's only 33% rostered, has had 2 straight 20-point fantasy games, and that's against tough defenses. But this week, he gets Houston. Much easier. A much easier defense for the quarterback. So again, 3 really good options for quarterback for this critical week. Even if you're not playing for a championship, chances are you got the playoffs either starting week 14 or week 15. So you're jockeying for position. These are guys that you should definitely look to if you are streaming the quarterback position, or if you have Tom Brady out. That's another reason why you would want that. For running backs, very thin. This is not surprising at this time of year, but there are a couple names I want to throw out there. The first one is Latavius Murray, who's only 60% rostered right now. So, the chances of him being available in your league are relatively small, but you should check to see if he's there, because he has been the primary back with Taysom Hill running this offense. And I got to say, man, New Orleans, just go and become a triple option team. That's what I really want to see. I mean, that's basically what they're doing right now. I mean, Taysom got 80 passing yards last week. Dude, just go full triple option on the field. Put Latavius Murray out as the fullback, put Kamara out as the halfback, 2 tight ends, and you put Michael Thomas out there too on the edge, but go with that sort of a lineup and just pound the ball on the ground. Now they do play Atlanta this week, which is surprisingly tough against the run. I was actually shocked to see that they are 8th overall against the run for fantasy. But with the kind of volume that he got, he had 19 attempts last week. Geez, I mean, you just can't ignore that. You got to go and play Latavius in your flex if you have him or if you can get him. I also do like Edo Smith, who is only 1% rostered, so he's absolutely available in your league. He got 12 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown, along with 4 catches for 10 yards. So he's over that 15 threshold. It does look like a 50-50 split with Brian Hill, although I do like the fact that he's getting more targets. Edo Smith is getting more targets. And, obviously if Gurley is back, you wouldn't start him, but I'd get him on your roster for sure, just in case Gurley is out. Gurley is notorious for not being able to make it through a full season. He might have, he might be close to his limit at this point. So I would definitely pick up Edo Smith and add him to your roster. I also am interested in DeAndre Washington, although I don't think you can start this guy. The Miami backfield is a mess, a lot of injuries. As long as Myles Gaskin and Ahmed are out, I think he is a startable asset as a flex. He had 13 carries and 1 target last week, so he's just under my threshold of 15, but I think he's still definitely absolutely worth a roster spot right now. And who knows, you might drop him in 2 weeks, but again, that it's really slim pickings on the waiver wire right now at this point in the season. Now for wide receiver, there's a couple of big names that I do very much like, definitely worth roster adds. One is potentially startable, again, as a flex. But the first one is Alan Lazard, who's only 39% rostered. Obviously, he's been out for a while. He had been out for a while, but he came back last week. He appears to be the number 2 target on this offense for Aaron Rodgers. He's got some great matchups coming up, including Philly in week 13, Detroit in week 14. So, I think he's worth a roster add. I'm not sure I would start him. He's only averaging 6 targets a game right now. So, that's below my threshold for a receiver. That makes him basically a touchdown dependent receiver. So I don't want to actually start him, but I would put him on my roster, because you never know. He might start to get a larger share of the offense now that he's healthy. But the guy I really like for wide receiver, man, you definitely got to get this guy added. Sami Watkins, only 44% rostered. Again, another guy that has missed most of the middle of the season because of an injury, but he came back last week, and he is the number 3 option on this high-powered offense with Patrick Mahomes. You can't ignore that. You got to take advantage of that when you can get it. Obviously he's behind Hill and he's behind Kelsey, but as a number 3 option, you can expect 6 to 9 targets a game. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good roster to have. This week, they play Denver. And so I think Mahomes and that team is going to be on the field a lot because Denver doesn't have a quarterback, but they'll probably have one by this weekend. But even so, Should be a good game, positive game script, a lot of volume, and Watkins, you can absolutely start him in a flex spot this week, no problem. So try to go get him. Let's see here for tight ends. Again, tight ends, very, very thin, as they usually are. But there are two names I want to talk to you about. Jordan Reed, who's only 24% rostered. He's gotten 6 targets in each of the past 2 games. Now, last week, he didn't do much with it. He only got 2 catches last week for 18 yards. That's not that good. But, again, for the team, he is the tight end option. He is the only tight end option. And, if he gets you a touchdown, it's worth it. It's worth starting him. So it depends on how desperate you are for a tight end. But I think Jordan Reed is certainly worth a roster spot if you really need him. And if you need to start him, I'm not sure I could start him. But, if you don't have anyone else, shoot, you got to, if you got Gronk on your team, if you've got, who else would be the tight end? Well, I guess that's really the only tight end that you would actually be starting. I think he'd be good as a fill-in. Also, Trey Burton, who is, again, very low volume. He's only averaging maybe 5 targets a game. So, again, he is totally a touchdown-dependent option, but he has gotten touchdowns in each of the past 2 games. That's not nothing, man. That's definitely worth something. And he gets Houston in week 3. He gets Houston in week 13, so it's a nice matchup. And again, I think he's worth rostering for sure. And, again, if you're desperate, start him. I think you can do that. Finally, let's talk about defenses. And there's a couple of great streaming options for defenses. A couple of these I'm trying to get for one of my leagues because somehow in one of my tournament leagues, I somehow ended up with Tampa Bay and Carolina as my defenses. I'm like, how did I let this happen? I knew they were both off on week 13, so I have no defense and I have no kicker because I have the kicker too for each of those teams. So obviously I'm going out and I'm making all these bid offers. And here's the thing, man. There's still awesome options available for both of those positions. Super easy to get. I only have 2 fab dollars left. I'm doing $1 on 6 different defenses, and I'm doing $1 on 6 different kickers. I should get at least one of them. So we'll see what happens. But here's two names that you need to consider. Now, Las Vegas, all right, 9% rostered. Got their butts handed to them last week surprisingly by Atlanta. And I think the Atlanta defense is better than we give them credit for. But I got to tell you, they get the Jets in week 13. I got no problem starting the Las Vegas Raiders if you want to start them. I think that's a great matchup. Obviously, the Jets are the gift that keep on giving for fantasy. So I got to tell you, absolutely worth a pickup and a start this week. Great matchup. Likewise, Minnesota, who has been playing pretty well defensively. They've been much better. They get Jacksonville. Wow. Again, the 2 best teams to play against for defenses are 2 lightly rostered teams. Minnesota's only 52% rostered. Las Vegas is only 9% rostered. So easy to get at least one of these guys for this week. And in both of these cases, you can expect a ton of turnovers, and that's how you make your butter in as far as your defense goes. You need turnovers, and there's going to be plenty of opportunities for both these defenses to do that. So there you go. So that's it, man. So that's it for the Week 13 waiver wire. So again, you probably have until Wednesday night to get your waiver wire in place. Waivers will clear on the 3rd, so that's Thursday. And so you got plenty of time. So you can look at what's available and also just see what's out there. Again, people are going to there's still some key fantasy players that are going to be on bye this week. So that means there's going to be players falling off into the waiver wire that maybe you wouldn't expect. And those are guys you could pick up before the weekend, right? They'll fall onto the waiver wire on Thursday when the waiver's clear. Check the waiver wire on Thursday. Just see who's available there. In one of my leagues, I found Damian Harris sitting on the waiver wire. So, obviously, I'm always wary to start the New England backfield, but I I'd certainly pick him up if he was available, but that's just an example. I see this every week, man. So you got to check your waiver wire after the waivers clear as well. So I will be back on Thursday with Swami. We're going to be talking about, obviously, the Week 13 matchups, and he can make fun of me as to how he beat me in the 94 Rock League, which I just can't cut a break for anything differently. There was... this is just how my season's going, man. It's like, it doesn't matter how many points I score. I get beat in my friends league. Okay. The one I've been in forever. I put up over 150 points right now. Still one player to go. I still have DeAndre from Pittsburgh still to play. And, so I'm projected to get like 167 points. Wow. That's great. That's the second highest point scored in the league this week. But the guy I'm playing against happened to be a guy who played both Derrick Henry and Tyreek Hill against me. So he has 200 points. So I got to score. The only way this happens is if this guy does what Tyreek Hill did. It gets me like 50 points. That's the only way I can win this game. But it's just like, how many games is it going to happen this year that I score over 160 points and lose? It's happened so many times. It is very frustrating. But like I said, I'm in a great mood. I got 2 teams going to a championship game for big money. And I tell you what, I'm going to win them both. It's going to happen. I'm going to win 2 championships this year in the Fantasy Football Players Championship. So that's what I'm working on right now. And so hopefully things go my way for week 13. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions about these players or any other players, please leave a comment down below. Please like and subscribe. I do appreciate that. And, now that the fantasy season, it's not winding down. We got the playoffs happening, but we're going to start looking ahead to next year as well, kind of reviewing what happened this past year with, who were guys that I really liked that did terrible, who were guys that I liked and did really well, that sort of thing. What were the conditions? This was a weird year for fantasy football. It was very tough. And so, we're going to, talk about how it will be different next year. Next year will be post-COVID. It'll be much more back to normal. We'll have a preseason again. We'll be able to see these players a little bit better and make a little bit better determination as to who we should target and who we shouldn't. And that's something we didn't get this year. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Have yourself a great Fantasy Week 13. Good luck out there for anyone playing for a championship this week. And I will talk to you again on Thursday. Have a good one, everybody.